I'm not that out of shape. Several years ago, I realized I had let my body dissolve into flab. I had worked so hard for so many years that I had abandoned the care of my physical condition. The first step to getting into shape was to realize I needed to change my ways, but the second and equally important step was to identify the obstacles to getting there. What would stop me from getting into shape? Once I understood those obstacles, I began a process to lose weight, grow muscle, and become more fit. Your total money makeover is the same. You need to realize there's a problem, but you must also see what could hinder your move toward financial fitness. The next few chapters will identify some major obstacles to your total money makeover. Myths versus truth. Myth: debt consolidation saves interest and you have one smaller payment. Truth: debt consolidation is dangerous because you treat only the symptom. Look in the mirror, take a long look. What do you see? Suck in that gut, hold up your chest, and really look at yourself. It doesn't matter how many angles or poses you take. The mirror is cruel. Well, I'm really not that fat, maybe just a little flabby. My dad used to say that 90% of solving a problem is realizing there is one. Focused intensity, life or death intensity, is required for you to reset your money spending patterns, and one of your biggest obstacles is denial. The sad thing is that you can be financially mediocre in this country, financially flabby, and still be average. And if the truth be known, being average, normal, and financially flabby is pretty much okay by most folks' standards. This, however, is not a book for the wimpy among us. This is a book about winning, about really having something. We started out our marriage with absolutely no debt. We lived on a single income, the cars were paid for, and we even had a small amount of savings. However, we eventually made the misguided decision to move into a much larger house that stretched us financially. After a few years, I changed jobs and we increased our annual income, giving us the illusion that we could increase our standard of living. That is when the debt really started accumulating. We financed 2 new cars to replace our old ones. We started buying everything on credit. We even got a home equity loan. Before we realized it, we were buried in debt. Debt myths. Debt is not a tool. Red-faced and fists clenched, the toddler yells with murder in his voice, "I want it! I want it! I want it!" We have all watched this scene unfold in the grocery store. We may even have watched our own children do this once. Now that I'm older and more mellow, I sometimes grin a little as a young mum tries without success to stifle the out-of-control screams of a child who is denied something. It is human nature to want it and want it now. It is also a sign of immaturity. It is human nature to want it and want it now. It is also a sign of immaturity. Being willing to delay pleasure for a greater result is a sign of maturity. However, our culture teaches us to live for the now. "I want it!" we scream, and we can get it if we are willing to go into debt. Debt is a means to obtain the I want it's before we can afford them. Joining in the lie, I have heard it said that if you tell a lie often enough, loudly enough, and long enough, the myth will become accepted as a fact. Repetition, volume, and longevity will twist and turn a myth or a lie into a commonly accepted way of doing things. Entire populations have been lulled into the approval of ghastly deeds and even participation in them by gradually moving from the truth to a lie. Throughout history, twisted logic, rationalization, and incremental changes have allowed normally intelligent people to be party to ridiculous things. Propaganda in particular played a big part in allowing these things to happen. Dumb math and stupid tax freedom. 15 years early for about $250 a month. Imagine why you buy a $130,000 home, for which you take out a $110,000 mortgage at 7%. The final cost, after all is said and done and paid, will be $283,520 after 30 years or $197,840 after 15. The difference? Just $256 extra per month. Go with 15 years. We have propaganda in our culture today. I'm not speaking in a political sense, but rather recognizing that there are people out there who want us to think their way and who will go to great lengths to accomplish that. The financial and banking industries in particular are very good at teaching us their way of handling money, which of course leads us to buy their products. If I see an ad again and again, that tells me I will be cool and sharp-looking if I drive a certain car. I can fall under the illusion that with the purchase of that car, those good things will happen to me. We may not really believe that we will become a model just from purchasing a car, but notice that ugly people aren't used in the TV spots to sell cars. We aren't really falling for that lie, or are we? I'm just asking. After all, we do buy the car and then justify our purchase on the basis of something academic like gas mileage. When we participate in what the crowd identifies as normal, even if it is stupid, we gain acceptance into the club. Sometimes we don't even realize what we are doing is stupid because we have been taught that it's just the way you do it, and so we never asked why. As we participate in the myth, we learn to spout the principles of the myth. After the years go by and we have invested more money and time into the myth, we become great disciples and can preach the points of the myth with great fervor and volume. We become such experts on the myth that we can sell others on joining the lie. I once joined in the lie, but no more. Don't let the monkeys pull you down. Debt has been sold to us so aggressively, so loudly, and so often that to imagine living without debt requires myth-busting. We have to systematically destroy the inner workings of the myths. Debt is so ingrained into our culture that most Americans can't even envision a car without a payment, a house without a mortgage, a student without a loan, and credit without a card. We have been sold debt with such repetition and with such fervor that most folks cannot conceive what it would be like to have no payments. Just as slaves born into slavery can't visualize freedom, we Americans don't know what it would be like to wake up to no debt. In 2007, 7 billion credit card offers were put in our mailboxes, and we are taking advantage of those offers. According to CardTrack, Americans currently have $928 billion in credit card debt. We can't do without debt, or can we? A major barrier to winning is our view of debt. Working with tens of thousands of people on their total money makeover in the last several years, I have found that a major barrier to winning is our view of debt. Most people who have made the decision to stop borrowing money have experienced something weird: ridicule. Friends and family who are disciples of the myth that debt is good have ridiculed those on the path to freedom. John Maxwell tells of a study done on monkeys. A group of monkeys were locked in a room with a pole at the center. Some luscious, ripe bananas were placed on top of the pole. When a monkey would begin to climb the pole, the experimenters would knock him off with a blast of water from a fire hose. Each time a monkey would climb, off he would go, until all the monkeys had been knocked off repeatedly, thus learning that the climb was hopeless. The experimenters then observed that the other primates would pull down any monkey trying to climb. They replaced a single monkey with one who didn't know the system